Hi, my name is Ariel from the Children of Karma, and today I'd like to discuss Neptune in Aries. This transit occurs on January 26th of 2026, and it ends in 2038 to 2039. And so these outer planet transits especially are very big for the collective, and we're already starting to see a bit of it. It's that sense of spirituality and the need to stand up and fight about it and make it known. You know, Aries is about our influence, our potency in the collective. We want to be seen. Aries is just being born, so it wants to be noticed, it wants to be seen. And the influence, it's important to that lifeline of the Aries. And so thinking about it from that perspective and now adding Neptune, it means that our sense of spirituality has this like a new birth of spirituality. Maybe we find other forms of spirituality, different, alternative, creative, maybe ones that are more inclusive to certain ideologies or something out there, something different. It's also about creativity, new forms of creativity. I'm already starting to see it a little bit, you know, the probably Aquarian energies, right? Jumping forward and using this to show off their own personal style, their own individual styles, unique thoughts. And I mean, we can see that already because Neptune is glamour. And so we start to see this even in our fashion, in our style, in our film, in our art. So we see more of that Aries energy. And it's so interesting to me to be able to sit and think, you know, what could this mean for art? What could this mean for fashion and film and the glamorization of Aries energy, of that fighter energy? We're also moving from Pisces energy. So it's the, you know, look at me, I'm suffering. And the Aries energy can also look at me, I'm suffering, but I'm angry about it. And you have to know about it. And so it could be something like that. It could also be meaning a loss of willpower because the Neptune can dissolve things like this. It just means that we're on this spectrum, and astrology can be read positively or negatively. I've seen many times the square actually just end up being so positive. I think because there was a need for movement within the dynamic, and so that square kind of brings in that energy. And it's interesting with the Neptune moving into Aries, it's going to be squaring Capricorn. So Capricorn, that generation that had Neptune and Capricorn, we're going to be dealing with that square now energy. And so that can create conflict between the Capricorn, the Aries, what maybe the collective thinks about, you know, spirituality, creativity, our politics, for example, what we really think, our beliefs. They can maybe go head to head, you know, our own individual thoughts versus the thoughts of the collective or the past, even like the structure, you know, the thoughts of the structure, what has allowed the structure to run for such a long time. We're having new ideas come into place. And, you know, don't forget the person, the pioneer, the Aries energy, the pioneer, they always receive the hits. You know, the first person is always receiving the hits. But you allow other people to come through. You know, you're the brave energy. This is the brave, the fighter. It can even lean, you know, negatively would be the Messiah type, you know, the one who wants to save the world. And we'll definitely see that. I mean, I'm starting to see. There are some people, there was just a documentary about a shaman scam of like stealing millions from people. There are things like that that will occur, and we have to use our discernments to be able to determine who is adding to our lives in positive ways, helping us to grow in positive ways, and who are the people that are just poking at us, kind of maybe replaying these old, even family dynamics of, or we stay in this detrimental dynamic because we feel safe there. I noticed this as I was going through the recovery process. It was a very long recovery. There were certain voices that I would really feel a sense of calm when listening to them. And it became a little ritual to listen to them on a daily whenever I was in pain that I couldn't escape from. I would have their voices to kind of pull me out and to distract me. And after a while, after a few years, realizing these same voices actually don't match my ideology, my beliefs, my reason for being. You know, there was something off. And in fact, there were certain influences that even created anger. This can be a Neptune and Aries signature as well, because the film, the arts, the music, it really does affect us in ways that we don't even realize. Just the tempo of certain songs or the messaging of certain songs. And some of us, we like to put the song on a loop and repeat it all day long. So that's not great if you have one of those songs that's kind of eating you away from the inside. So it's important to have good discernment during this period, these 14 years, for looking out for this Messiah type, this black magic kind of thing, that can really kind of, they're feeding on your energy instead of just showing you ways to get stronger, to restore your power. You know, they're taking it. One of the aspects that I like to tune into when it comes to Neptune and Aries is transmuting the pain and transmuting suffering. Really finding ways to move past it, find new ways to deal with suffering. It reminds me of Bridget, Saint Bridget. She was able to even transcend religions from paganism to Christianity, transmuting the suffering through one of her principles of keening, the keening woman, the woman who wails and grieves, but she creates something sacred from this grieving. Neptune has been in Pisces for the last 14 years, and we've been grieving, we've been wailing, we've been suffering as a collective, you know, and we're moving into Aries now, and it shows me that there's something being born from that suffering. Something has been birthed from that suffering. We've learned something from it, something that we're ready to embody within this next 14 years. This aspect can refer to dissolving the masculine. Perhaps we dissolve the ideas that we have around the masculine. What does a strong man look like? Or how does he behave? And what are his responsibilities? Maybe we rework what this actually means. Maybe it becomes more realistic, you know, or not. Maybe we idealize the masculine, which is also a signature of this. Even women, you know, maybe they're realizing that, yes, we all have the masculine within. I'm allowed to share it. I'm allowed to be it. And we really start to maybe idealize and cherish this, romanticize the masculine energy within us all. Maybe that assertive energy becomes more sexy, more romantic. You know, it's interesting as well. I noticed even the transition from the Barbie doll and how, you know, the changes and how the Barbie looked, you know, from decade to decade. I think it represents how, as a society, what we value in that sphere of glamour, in beauty. And I think it would be interesting to see what it turns into, you know, in the next decade. You know, maybe it is a more fierce feminine. You know, maybe this Barbie has a leather jacket on, you know, maybe she's got shoulder pads, maybe a military blazer, maybe she's got armor. Maybe she's got armor on. Of course, with this aspect, there are also the religious disputes, you know, on a grand scale, you know, even using the aspect of water. Neptune is the ocean. It can be trading disputes. It can be, you know, aggressive seas, crime, conflict on the waters, on the seas. This can also be Neptune's mystery illnesses, and Neptune will be with Saturn about the first 2 years, and then it's on its own. With that combination, it just reminds me of just all of these experiments where they're bringing up old bacteria from thousands of years ago just to see, just for fun, that creating some sort of mystery illness amongst the collective, or some old pathogen being reborn, having new life somehow. It can be that being alone, Aries, they stand on their own. It can be that, and Neptune a bit also has that alone kind of signature. It can be that we idealize or romanticize the idea of being alone, which can lead to maybe self-defense being something that is really cherished, valued amongst the collective, being able to defend yourself. Women going into self-defense classes. Having Saturn there co-present with Neptune also kind of means, I think, we're dissolving the rules of the past in favor of a new set of rules that are more individualized, ones that we create ourselves, and moving away from some of the old rules, the old limitations of the past. In a way, Saturn can help us to tolerate the disappointments that may come along the way, and maybe make us feel that we're being moved by a divine force, by a stronger purpose. Maybe we don't value that collective approval anymore. Maybe that's not something we idealize anymore. Maybe it's about those who perform without an audience. They're performing for purpose. Maybe that becomes more idealized now. Maybe standing on your own finally gets to be glamorized. But this aspect we're in, on the spectrum of anger, either dissociating from that anger, finding ways to escape from that anger, or feeling kind of guided by it, like a divine force within, a potency within that keeps us going. It's through this anger, this separation from everyone else, that we want to find our own self, our own individual potency. Sexual interests also can change with the Aries energy. It's very sexual. It could be that maybe we idealize and romanticize, hopefully that's what it is. We could romanticize the sexual process, or it could lean towards more a masochistic kind of suffering, or aggression. It can also refer to kind of seduction within creation, or using that ability to seduce within the arts, seducing within music, within art, within film. Maybe that strong sexual energy really is, we start to see it being valued within the collective in a different kind of way. At the same time, it could mean Neptune can dissolve anything that it's attached to. So it can be that it dissolves that sexual interest, and maybe we find more people moving to celibacy. They're just disinterested. Maybe they feel that, maybe they idealize, romanticize sex and that process, and they feel like there is no human that can live up to the connection that we share with spirit. And it's true. So we can have many people that decide this is not for me. Maybe they feel actually a blending with their partner's energy, and they realize this person is not an energy that I want to blend with. This is not someone who shares the same sense of spirit as I do. They're not an energy that I want my energy to blend with. Maybe they become a little pickier with those options, or they just don't participate in it at all. Celibacy. A joy for the competitive things, even competitive with Neptune. I see a lot of game shows being, coming back. I remember they used to be very popular. Game shows, competitive shows, maybe competitive romance. We see a lot of those love reality shows. Maybe they become more competitive. We see a lot of those game shows, fighting to win, and even those sports challenges, those types of shows. We see more of this. It's a very exciting time. It can mean a lot of different things, and we can all tune into something positive, something negative. We're definitely going to see negative, but we're going to see positive too. And I think if we are aware of what is available, what's offered to us, the higher potential of what we could experience with this transit, I think we're better off. I think we can get there if we focus our minds on something positive. And sometimes even with Neptune, it means to escape a little, to pull away, even a little delusional. Sometimes this is necessary to get by. If we're going to get through something long term, we're going to need strategies to get by. And sometimes that strategy is to pull away and escape just for a little bit, so that we can come back with a clear mind and refreshed and renewed. Thank you for joining me for this video. There will be more, of course. There's plenty to say about this aspect. So, and don't forget to visit my website, The Children of Karma, for ancestral pattern services, transit monthly services, natal and synastry as well, career service. So I'd love to see you there. And don't forget to like the video. Bye.